Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 291 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on January 27th, 2026. Hope you're all doing well on this very cold winter day. Man, the weather's really shifted this week, didn't it? Uncharacteristically cold down here where we are. Yeah, it sucks. Hope you're all staying warm. We have a lot to cover this episode. First, we're going to hit the technical discussion for the Dillon DRC308 on the Knight's Armament SR25. You saw that report published a couple of weeks ago, and we did the intro last episode. So we'll go a deep dive today on that. And then after that, we will hit the intro to today's publication, which is the Precision Armament TiTrex 300. It's an incredibly high-performance silencer for its size. That's going to be on a 308 bolt gun. Yeah, so I haven't seen one of those since last May, right? We haven't done a 308 bolt action report since mid-2025, so we're definitely due. And then lastly, I have a quick 300 blackout hunting story again. Yeah, took another whitetail with the MCX, and I'm going to give you a little bit more lessons learned that I discovered. This was right after the other one, actually, within a week of the other one that I told you the story about. It just so happened we couldn't tell you because we were at SHOT Show last week, so we couldn't do a podcast. So here we are. Okay, let's get on with the show. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new to the podcast, oh my goodness, we're so glad to have you. There are timestamps in the episode description for you to skip to wherever you would like. If you want to hang around a little longer, I'm going to read some ads. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the fine companies that make this podcast possible. Now almost hitting 300 episodes. It's a really big deal. So we like to thank them every time. This podcast is brought to you by Legion Athletics because nothing you do is worth doing without consistency. Legion Athletics can help you with that. They have whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, vitamins, minerals, creatine, all that good stuff. Do they have everything you need? Well, no, but they have a lot of it. Use the code word PewScience to save 20% off. Or I'm sorry, actually, you'll buy one, get one, 50% off of your entire shopping cart. And then if you keep using the code, you'll get 20% cash back. Sometimes I mix that up. Either way, you're getting something for using the code. You're helping the podcast. It's pretty good. Pretty good deal. All their stuff, if you're a competitive athlete and you're drug tested, it's really great because their stuff is not going to make you miss your drug test, which I know is very important. It's important to me. It's important to a lot of you. So, all their stuff is independently tested, which is great. Okay. Episode is also brought to you by Silencer Shop. Really, really strong player in the NFA space, of course. You can use their kiosk to do your fingerprints and photos electronically, cut down on errors, simplify your silencer purchasing process, get a money back guarantee. It's pretty good. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It's really a silencer ownership simplified. Speaking of, there's a dealer out of Houston, Top Gun Range. Really, really good crew. Kyle and his gang are amazing. A wealth of information. They have the largest rental fleet in the entire state of Texas, 15 lanes in their indoor range. You can rent all the different firearms and even machine guns and silencers. You can check out their rental inventory on their website at topgunrange.com. You can find them on Instagram at Top Gun Range. Also, the fine folks at Capital Armory, really, really strong knowledge base when it comes to NFA items. They've been in the NFA game for a long time, and they personally use a lot of NFA items. They're a big fan of high performance, and they can really point you toward high performing systems that they have personal experience with. If you live in one of the 42 states where silencers are legal, you can obtain one shipped directly to your home with Capital Armory. Silencer shipped directly to your door. And finally, this podcast is brought to you by the Pew Science Laboratory. I'm the technical director of the lab, and we're now in our 6th year of operation. We sponsor this podcast to give you, more direct layman term information to supplement the reports that we publish. Okay, you can visit pewscience.com for all of our research. We're trying to push the silencer industry forward one test at a time. We have the suppression rating algorithm, which is the simplest and most accurate hearing safe rating for suppressed small arms. From before combustion takes place all the way to all the combustion is gone. It's very, very, very good, very comprehensive. It's the home of the silencer sound standard. There are 8 sections, and it's the most in-depth and accurate silencer data analysis in the world. It really is. 24/7, pewscience.com, and you can support this podcast and all the research we do too with a membership at pewscience.com, which is great. It's cheaper than a cup of coffee, and it is really helping when you join. We're in your debt. Really great. Now, if that's too much money, that's fine. You can donate, every once in a while if you want, on the review page and the podcast page. And if you don't want to give any money, that's of course fine too. You can just spread the word, let folks know that silencers and guns are awesome, and we can normalize the use of suppressed small arms. That's really the goal. So I have 3 topics prepared for you today. Like I was saying, first we're going to hit report 6211 on the Dillon DRC308 on the SR25, and we'll go through that in comprehensive detail. And then topic 2 will be report 6212, and that'll be the Precision Armament TiTrex 300 on the 308 bolt action. That's just an intro. And then topic 3, we'll have some fun talking about deer hunting, because who doesn't love that? Okay, to get my timestamp set up here. Let's go to this topic 1 at a time, 6 minutes and 3 seconds. Okay, let me write this down. Perfect. Okay, yes. So topic 1, sound signature review 6211, the Dillon DRC308 on the 14.5-inch SR25. We kicked off the SR25 research progression with the larger brother of the previously evaluated DRC556. Very challenging test host. And so we'll try to do this technical report justice now as we speak to it in detail, the silencer and the reports and everything, hazard map brief, all that good stuff. And a big thing about this report is that it showcased performance with 2 big parameter changes. The first is that we took 20-inch barrel 308 combustion and we moved it down to 14.5-inch barrel 308 combustion. And the second is that we did it on a semi-auto platform. The KAC, the Knights Armament SR25 instead of a bolt action. And so these are 2 really big changes that are very important to understand with regard to personnel safety, personnel severity and risk. And really in regard to general signature management. The DRC308 from Dillon, it did handle the system relatively well, we think. And again, we don't have a lot of data on this host quite yet, but we certainly will. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty, and also I'm going to split this topic up into intro, which we just did, and then we're going to go over the DRC308 physical overview, its actual design. We're going to go through the hazard map brief, then we'll take a look at the performance in detailed way in the full report, and then we'll go over overall thoughts. So let's hit the physical overview now at a time of 7 minutes and 57 seconds. We'll make this streamlined. Okay, so physical overview, and it's funny because I have the 308 silencer and the 556 silencer on my desk in front of me to compare them. So this is the big brother to the DRC 556. And when I say that, it is sort of a loaded statement because the DRC 556 isn't even that long. It's not even that big. And so the DRC 308 with the direct thread mount installed is 6.8 inches long. Okay, and for a 308 silencer, that's really not that big. It's a little bit bigger than a lot of full-size 556 silencers nowadays, a little bit bigger than that, but like at least in length, but in diameter, these Dillon silencers are a little bit bigger. They're 1.75 inches in diameter, which is becoming more common, actually, overall. So like the DRC 556, the DRC 308 is hub compatible on the back end. Okay, so it also has pronounced wrench flats on that proximal end as well, both on the silencer body, like on the meat of it, and also right near the mount interface too. And I always think that too many wrench flats are never a bad thing with silencers, especially when they have a hub threading, because man, you never know what you're going to need to do. In our experience testing, and I can tell you my personal experience just using silencers and testing silencers, when you have a hub mount, it's just one more thread junction to worry about. And I really am happy when I have wrench flats because I like to be able to use, a big adjustable wrench or maybe a a crow's foot or something, I'm a fan of that. Those small notches sometimes for those spanner wrenches they give, I don't like those as much. This is just a personal opinion. I think wrench flats are cool in general. This is a 3D printed Inconel silencer, as we spoke about on the last episode, and really that kind of makes sense given that Dillon makes miniguns. It's kind of in their heritage to have like abusive firing schedules, things like that. The DRC308 is intended for semi-automatic or automatic fire. It's not a bolt gun silencer, though you could always use it on a bolt gun, but it would be I don't think it would be maybe the most efficient use of the silencer. I think the silencer is more for semi-autos. I think that's what this is for. I think the performance actually in our test program actually showed that. The exterior of the silencer and the previously evaluated DRC556, they have that fancy, almost the floral pattern grip texture to them. And, I was speaking with them at SHOT last week, and they showed me the models that they've done that actually have the smooth body instead of the pattern. I think because some people didn't like the pattern for whatever reason, just aesthetic preferences. And I didn't think I would think this, but I gotta say, I actually think the pattern looks better to me after seeing the other ones in person. Maybe it's that weird situation where you see something first and it kind of sticks with you. I think maybe that design pattern grew on me. Now, from a practical point of view, I kind of like it because it's more grippy than a smooth surface, like when you grip it. So, it's almost like a knurling, but not. Anyway, to each their own. I do believe you can get the silencers in both looks. I don't know what they call the other model, or even if it's available right now. Just maybe call them and ask, but I don't know. Whatever you want, I'm sure they can get you. Okay, let's move into the more interesting to me, the technical design now at a time of 12 minutes and 6 seconds. I mean, I know that stuff's important too, but the technical design is a lot of times more interesting. One moment. Okay, so actual silencer design. So here's where there's not really a huge departure from the DRC556, but there are some things that they did that I think I mentioned last episode to differentiate the design to deal with the more severe blast load input from 308 versus 556. How do you move from an intermediate rifle cartridge suppression regime to a full-size rifle cartridge suppression regime, right? Like remember, and this is important for newbies to understand, and even I think some experienced folks to understand, it's not the speed of the projectile that should concern you. It is the energy used to create the speed. It is the energy used to get the projectile moving as fast as it is. It's the blast loads. The blast loads are what we're trying to suppress. Okay, you can't suppress a Mach wave from a projectile, but you can suppress blast loads, and that's what silencers do. Okay, so you do get some more baffles here with the longer length, the DRC308, and of course larger bore because it's required to suppress the 30 caliber range cartridges instead of the 223 caliber. But a standout feature when you look inside the first expansion chamber, the blast chamber of the DRC308, a standout feature is the small amount of additional porting on the first reflector on that blast baffle. When you compare it to the DRC556. Now, I am not sure if there's additional design features in the baffle stack that are different, but there might be. The bottom line, they at least thought they needed to increase early time flow rate a little bit here from the higher load demand. And I would certainly agree with them on that design direction in a gross sense, like on a basic level. Like when I saw, like for example, like when I looked inside the silencer, I wasn't surprised that there was additional porting. I was like, okay, yeah, for this type of design, the way they're porting their baffle, yeah, okay. I can see why they drilled more holes or whatever. Excuse me. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't outside the realm of reasonable. When I saw it, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Moving on, the purposely induced porosity, the PIP, that was used in the DRC556 under license is also used in the DRC308. And externally, you can see the PIP vents at the distal end on the entire end cap assembly, okay? And then, meaning like where the, on the flat part. And then you can also see them radially around the body near the end cap. And this is actually somewhat similar to what silencers from PTR employ with the same PIP technology, but in a different arrangement and different sizing. But it's the same concept. It's that venting a little bit earlier than the primary bore vent through PIP. So you're kind of distributing the blast vent through a lattice. You're decreasing severity. You're breaking a lot of the waves into wavelets, and it's simply good energy management practice if you can swing it. Now, what you have here with the silencer in a gross sense is a system that's intended to flow somewhat expediently from the blast chamber into the main baffle array, into the main reflector array, and of course vent to atmosphere through PIP, which again, like I just told you, it reduces blast amplitude, breaks the blast waves into wavelets pretty efficiently. The question becomes, does it flow fast enough in early time? And is the combustion propagation controlled enough in late time when you use the larger combustion volume 308 cartridge? Like when you have this more severe blast load input, can it do what the DRC556 was doing? Can it tame a semi-auto host and reduce operator and bystander hazards like simultaneously? You got to keep in mind this thing's less than 7 inches long with its mount all in. So it would be great if it performed well and made people safer, right? Wouldn't that be ideal for all these silencers? Yeah, it would be great, wouldn't it? So let's go ahead. Let's check that out directly with the hazard map. We can do that visually at a time of 17 minutes and 26 seconds. Okay, very good. Yeah, let's do that. And why don't you, and if you're at your computer, please don't do this when you're driving or something, but if you're at your computer, you can pull up the hazard map brief 8.1.8, or you can look at the map at the top of report 6 to 11. It is up to you. It's the same map, different places. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through report 8.1.8 in case you're following along at home, since there is some technical information there in addition to the map. And again, this is the 8.1.8 suppressed AR-10 rifle hazards Dillon DRC308 silencer hazard map brief. That is the title of the report. Okay, so this is SR25, the Knights Armament Combat Carbine, the CC. Okay, so what I'll do is figure 1 in the hazard map brief, the map, I'm going to click and make it bigger so I can see it in front of me here on my screen. So right away on the color scale, you can see there's a lot of red and orange on this map, right? Like for those of you who can see color. Okay, you can see that. Now for those of you, and I know we haven't done the colorblind stuff yet, but we will. For those of you who don't see colors, there's a lot of 20 zone and 30 zone on this map, right? There's a lot of 20 and 30 suppression rating zones on this map. Think of this is a contour map. Think of it like you're reading a contour map that you would navigate with, and instead of elevation changes with mountains and stuff, this is risk. And the valleys at the really low numbers are really, really dangerous. And the peaks would be very, very safe. You can think of don't fall into the valleys, you'll get hurt. The floor is lava. Okay, that's like an analogy for you if you really want to get silly with this. So anyway, a lot of 20, a lot of 30 on this map. A lot of the pressure field around, a lot of the risk field around the shooter is in this 3 meter by 3 meter box, in this 3 meter by 3 meter world, there's a lot of red and orange, a lot of 20 and 30. And what that typically means is that you're in a relatively high hazard area. And I use the word relatively because keep in mind that relative to unsuppressed, this is actually much safer. But relative to something like a suppressed rimfire setup, this is high hazard. Okay, and so for more information on that, or if you're new to the suppression rating, please check out the rankings table at pewscience.com/rankings, and that will help calibrate you and your expectations regarding hazards. Okay, now a big thing here to focus on is the ejection port blast, which you can see on the map, which is cool. The kicker here is that 308 from a 14.5-inch barrel is a significant blast load to suppress. And with the PIP venting, you are getting fast momentum out of the front of the silencer. You really are. This is producing hazard contours in the forward field that are quite large and in charge. You can actually see quite a bit of bloom here, where the jetting is really impacting the pure wave propagation. That's what's happening. You're not seeing just like a pure wave propagation. You're seeing an extra momentum from the jet. That's why it's blooming like that. That's what the model's showing you. That's derived from test measurements. So the jet momentum is adding to the directionality in a big way. Now, if this were an unsuppressed host, the map would be like all red, right? Like check out. In fact, there's a hazard map. There's a hazard map of an unsuppressed Mark 18. If you go to Section 8 of the standard, you'll find it, and it's just all red. But if you're standing a meter to the left of the operator with this suppressed SR25 with a Dillon silencer, you're not going to get your bell rung, are you? You're probably not going to get your bell rung. It's going to be loud, but it's not going to be. You're not going to. If you're standing a meter to the left of this guy shooting the silencer in the figure, you're going to be smack dab in the 30 zone, and it's going to be loud, but it's not going to kill you. It's not going to hurt your head, which is good. And that's a really powerful conclusion you can draw from this tool, which is nice. Like, how are your buddies, your teammates, your operator friends next to you doing? Okay, and so for those of you nerds that like to keep track, the jet stability index in this semi-auto model is, 0.041, and that is helping to model the forward field. And again, I don't know if you guys remember I telling you this, but the reason we put that number on the plot and in the report is it's almost more for us than it is for you, because this is a computational tool. We need to keep track of everything, and it's somewhat incomplete to me if it doesn't have the parameters on there. So, we put the grid resolution of 3 inches, and it probably doesn't matter to you, but I'm telling you because I think as we publish more of them, and you start to see these semi-auto and bolt action stability indexes, which are actually different in the software, it'll help you kind of like the Omega metric, because they're actually somewhat tied to that. So anyway, there's a reason why the number's on there. Don't feel bad if you don't know what that means, but eventually it will become more clear. Overall, in the risk field of this map, it's more hazardous than typically seen on a lot of high-performance semi-automatic 5.56 systems. But you got to keep in mind, this is not a 5.56 NATO system. This is a 7.62 NATO system, so it's a different sport. So I really like this. It gives you a really good calibration for expectations. Because I can't, a lot of folks, I see them on the internet, they think, well, supersonic, and say, no, energy, okay? People say, well, 5.56 is never hearing safe because it's supersonic. It's like, okay, well, hearing safety is a spectrum based on dose and suppression level tied to this, and the suppression rating ties all that together. And if you thought 5.56 was dangerous, now look at 7.62 NATO. So the same folks that are so scared of the 5.56, well, they should be more scared of this. They don't hear them saying this. You don't hear them saying 308. You hear them talking about that. All of a sudden, they put 308 through a bolt gun, and they're like, everything's hunky dory. Oh, I shoot deer without hearing protection all the time. It's like, oh, is that because there's no ejection port blast out of your bolt gun, and you have a good silencer? See, they don't think about that, right? Isn't that weird? I don't think it's weird. I think it's just they don't understand silencers, but now they will. It's very good. So now let's talk specific silencer performance on this host in a great amount of detail. You're looking at report 6211 at a time of 25 minutes and 8 seconds. Okay. Pretty good time, I think, so far. Am I Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta Echo Foxtrot? Oh, yeah, I'm trying to number these things and do it right. So I want to make sure I don't miss a number here. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up the full report now, and you can follow along at home if you want. You can pull up the free version, no man, woman, or child left behind. Like the hazard map brief before, that's only one version. The reports, in section 6 of the standard, there are member reports and free reports. You can pull up the free one, it's no problem. But if you're a member, you should pull up the member one. 1, you don't have ads in it. 2, it's more complete, you get more data. But don't worry, the suppression rating is free and everything. Okay, so full report. Bottom line up front, which you actually already saw on the hazard map, but we're going to go through it again here. Bottom line up front, 24.4 suppression rating 1 meter left of the end cap of the silencer, 1.6 meters above the ground in the tree-free field. 18.8 suppression rating 6 inches right of the shooter's right ear, which brings us to a composite suppression rating of 25.9 for the Dillon DRC308 on the standard Knight's Armament 14.5 inch SR25 combat carbine or SR25cc battle rifle. That's right, we get to say battle rifle because it's a 308. I love that term. Now, I got a question for you. It might be rhetorical, it might be not. Does 25.9 as a 1-number rating seem representative of the hazard field to you after seeing the hazard map? Maybe, or maybe not. It's hard using 1 number, isn't it? Yeah, now you feel my pain. Now that you have the hazard maps, now you really know how difficult 1 number is. Yeah, that's why the detailed ratings are there. And now why the hazard maps are there too. Boy, are those maps useful, because now and again, the map's in this report too. You click it and what do you see? What do you see in the 2 white boxes in the map? 1 meter left of the end cap, you got 24.4. 6 inches right of that shooter's right ear, what do you got? 18.8. The same thing that's in the suppression rating graphic at the top of the page, just spatially in the hazard map. See, these numbers have meaning. We're not pulling them out of a hat. Okay. I know I don't want to like patronize you. Okay. And the thing is though, we can't teach to the lowest common denominator because we'd be here all day. But I'm not going to talk to the PhDs all day because then no one else is going to listen. So I'm trying to bridge that gap, and it's fun. I was going to say it's hard, but everything's hard in life. This is fun. So again, email me if you have a problem. Let's see what makes this tick. Check out. Let's scroll down on the report. Scroll down past the table. It's very scary because it has numbers in it, and people get scared of numbers. So I want to look at pictures. Scroll down to blast overpressure in Figure 1. You have Figure 1A and Figure 1B. This is indeed blast overpressure in the free field. Another word for that is sound pressure, if you want to call it that. It's blast. Here you see. In Figure 1, you see something that should immediately tell you a story. A quick story. Now, albeit it will be a quick story, a fast story. It's going to be quick because you will come to the conclusion quickly. And it's also going to be quick because the phenomenon is quick. And that's the blowdown. That's right. Boy, is the blast load venting quickly. No, look at it though. No, seriously, look at the blowdown rate in Figure 1A. It's very fast. Look at the deep dive after that peak. Like, this is big picture. I'm talking big picture right now. And if you want to see what's happening in very, very early time, like super duper early, look at Figure 1B. When we just isolated shots 1 and 2 in early time, the black curve and the blue curve. Boy, you get that typical Mach wave from the bullet coupled with an initial jet. And, you can see, like, I had, it's funny, just anecdotal story, like real quick. There's a very, not famous, but there's an infamous silencer company, not to be named, who does testing. And one of their engineers, or whoever they were, on the internet one time made a comment on social media to me, or to us, to Pew Science, about like some of the initial peaks from a silencer test, like not lying completely on top of each other, and then them remarking that it was a problem with our test setup. Like that's what they said, and I found it was actually really funny. I mean, some people didn't think it was funny. I thought it was funny, like personally, and the reason I thought it was funny was because the test they were talking about, if they actually knew how the silencer behaved, they would realize that no, it's not just a bullet Mach wave that you're measuring in that initial peak. It's actually a coupled jet. And sure enough, if you look at figure 1B, what is the reason for the black curve in the first peak being such higher amplitude compared to the blue curve on the first peak? Why are those two positive phase initial peak amplitudes so different at a time of approximately 30 milliseconds of figure 1B? Why are they different? Do you think it's a problem with the test setup, or is there a physical phenomenon responsible for that differential? Well, it's the second one. It's a physical phenomenon, and it's because there's severe first round pop. There's ancillary combustion happening due to unburnt fuel coming in contact with oxygen-rich air in the silencer during shot one. And it just so happens that the FRP quenching mechanism in the DRC308 is not as robust as some silencers, and that's what you're seeing. Part of the reason is this is a shorter barrel, 308. But suffice to say, it is important to understand that no, it is in fact not the test setup, because if it were, the internal combustion, the precursor would be off too. Okay, and then, spoiler alert, wait until you see the data from the report we're publishing today, or tomorrow for me, today for you, with the TiTrex. So this is a different sport. The flow rate's different. And I know I said it was going to be a quick anecdote, but it's very, very technically relevant to this, and it's very, very technically relevant to explaining the competency of people doing testing that some people think you should listen to and some people think you should ignore. And I'm just saying, that's all I'm going to say about that. It is this phenomenon, or these phenomena are very relevant to understanding what you're looking at. You can test silencers or cars or hot air balloons all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. But unless you understand the data you're looking at, what are you really doing? And what are you explaining to people? Okay, sorry. Went on a rant. He's crazy. Right after that initial peak, this is what's very important about the Dillon. You get a very big bam, and that's a technical term for a huge primary jet peak. And if you look at the figure in the annotation in figure 1B, I wrote there, my exact words were relatively long duration positive phase, parentheses, compared with 556. And that's true. This is a sign that you have a lot of momentum generated in that first pulse, or first sets of pulses, because a lot of them are nested. Remember, you're a meter out, right? This is a meter left of the end cap, so you have a lot of coalescence that's happened. But nonetheless, we can still delineate from the different events. That's one of the reasons why we sample as fast as we do, so we get the wave shapes really accurately. We're high above the Nyquist frequency. There's some method to the madness. Now, if you would like to, in plain English, what I'm saying is, there's a lot of blast load that exits this silencer very quickly, and it generates a lot of push, and that generates more impulse. And we can demonstrate that mathematically to you and visually by integrating the pressure signals in the time domain. And that is shown in figure 2. Okay, here you can see a very expedient rise to peak blast blast momentum accumulation, it's just a great way. And I'm so happy that other people have chosen to start showing you impulse in the silencer testing land, because they never did before Pew Science. And it's really important for understanding. Now, they might show it to you, not explain it, but that's okay. Baby steps are great. You gotta walk before you run. And I'm a firm believer in giving tools to people to succeed. And this is one of those tools. Now, in figure 2, you can see a very expedient rise to peak blast momentum accumulation. And harkening back to the hazard map we just spoke about, this is actually one of the reasons for the pretty low jet stability index. It's all tied together. This is all reality. It's test data giving way to good models, giving way to good understanding, giving way to good risk assessment. Okay, now remember, the low jet stability index is directly tied to the externally derived omega metric. It's all tied together. Real silencer behavior. Now, if you still look at figure 2A and 2B, 2B is a little more zoomed in so you can see more fidelity. You do get some first round pop divergence here. What does that mean? FRP runs away a little bit. Why? I already told you. Unburnt fuel, more oxygen to support the combustion. You have a more oxidizer in the air. You support more combustion. You get more energy out of the silencer during the first shot. That's first round pop. Even with that, with the Dillon, things are really consistent and kind of in like after first round pop. And that's really not too shabby, in my opinion. Like for a short barrel 308, gas gun, this isn't too shabby, I think. Okay, now I will say suppressing FRP is pretty important, and I like that. And this does it pretty well. Actually, let me see. I might have wrote something about it. Let me just remember right, because this has been a minute. I'm scrolling down. 1 second. Yeah. Research note 4 on the report. It says FRP is significantly suppressed with the DRC308, and relative risk increase to bystanders during the FRP event may be considered negligible in this host. That's true. Just because you do have that extra energy there, the increased risk is actually negligible in relative fashion, which is good to know. That's a really important conclusion. So, like I said, being able to suppress FRP, it's good. Now, I guess it matters less if all of your shots are loud, because who cares about if you suppress FRP if you're like all your shots are loud, so there is no FRP because everything's loud. That's not the case with the silencer. This muzzle suppression rating is actually pretty decent for the barrel length. So anyway, I think it's an accomplishment. Now, something else that's impressive about this silencer is going back to this in a gross sense, that gross muzzle suppression rating on this host, even though you don't have a lot to compare against here, I put a note in the report for the Silencer Co. Omega 300 on the 20-inch bolt gun, because that's a very well-known silencer. The suppression rating for that silencer on that different host is actually really close to this one at the muzzle. So look at this. Even though the Silencer Co. Omega was tested on the longer barrel, it's still gives you a pretty good peg point, because you kind of know what an Omega does on a bolt gun. So if this does at the muzzle of an SR25 what the Omega does at the muzzle on a longer bolt gun, you still have a reference point. Okay? 1 second. Hell, you could pick other reference points too that have similar muzzle suppression ratings in the rankings, but I thought I'd pick a 7.62 test with a 30 caliber silencer to get as close as apples to apples as you can, knowing that you can't really, because different weapons, right? Yeah, different weapons. But, the Omega has proliferated so much, so I figured it'd be useful. Now, moving to the shooter's ear data, if you scroll more, there's a lot of words. You can read it, or maybe you feed it to ChatGPT. Maybe it reads it for you. I don't know what you kids are doing with that. Be careful, because you can get something wrong. Moving to the shooter's ear data. Now, member, you can only see this if you're a member. If you're a Pew Science member, you definitely in this shooter's ear data saw something here you've never seen before, right? And why? Well, at first glance, it's like it looks really similar to 5.56 AR data. In some ways, just a little bit different. A little bit longer time scales, things like that. The gross signatures are showing you coupled ejection port blast with muzzle blast. which is an incredibly difficult thing to characterize. They're very complex signatures, extremely complex signatures. And this is actually one of those things we're going to have to really dig into to learn properly, and it's going to take some time. I think we're going to be better for it, just like we were when we started the Mark 18, just like we were when we started the M4. Are we going to learn faster this time? Well, probably, because we have the benefit of all the other weapons. But it's a neat opportunity to learn the AR-10, I think, like an actual SR-25. I think, man, Eugene Stoner, hopefully he's looking down on us with satisfaction. We can only hope. We're let's be honest, we're probably not doing this justice, but we're going to do our best, Mr. Stoner. So please, you almost want to call him Doctor, don't you? Doctor? Hello, Doctor. Doctor? Man, what was I wanting to watch the other day? Like The Naked Gun or like Airplane? Those movies are good. Anyway, I think, so I'm getting off track. A big takeaway here that I want you folks to understand, like at least in the interim, in the absence of more data or more SR-25 data, is that the personnel risk when suppressing a short barrel battle rifle is exponentially lower than using an unsuppressed weapon. Okay? And that goes for folks that are wearing hearing protection too. And as a matter of fact, let me see the report. If you scroll down to, I forgot to talk about this, figure 5, we show the unsuppressed suppression rating. And I just realized the ear, the blue bar for the unsuppressed ear is so small, it cut off the label. I think it's like 1 something or less than 1. It's around 1. Suppression rate of 1. That's a bad day for you. And then the muzzle suppression rating is like 4. Okay, that's a bad day for you. And then you put the Dillon on there, and now your muzzle suppression rating is 24.4, and the shooter's ear suppression rating is 18.8. Well, where else have you seen something like 18.8 at the ear? I don't remember, but isn't an Otter Creek Labs polonium on a standard on 2 Mark 18 around 18 something or 19? And this is a 308 battle rifle? Think about it. I want you to think about this. Think about the relative risk. Okay? Now that's for your ears, right? This is suppression rating. Now, let's say you have hearing protection on. Is this still going to help you? Yeah, it is. Because remember, it's not just about your ears. I need you folks to really understand that blast loads don't care what they impact. They impact everything they touch, and they're going to be touching your head. And if you shoot at a range near walls and stuff, you really need to be careful, man. Use a silencer. It's going to make you last longer. It's going to be able to make you talk to your kids for more years. You're going to have less headaches, I promise. If you're shooting an unsuppressed battle rifle a lot, I don't care if you have hearing protection on. You're going to get a micro TBI. And if you are shooting indoors unsuppressed with a battle rifle, God help you. I'm telling you, put a silencer on your gun. It doesn't have to be this silencer. Put a silencer on your gun, you're going to have less headaches. Trust. 7.62 NATO is a really powerful thing to deal with. And silencers make it safer for you and for those around you. If you listen to nothing else I say, please remember that. All right, let me give you some overall thoughts at a time of 43 minutes. In 33 seconds. Okay, very good. Yeah, so overall, Dillon DRC308. Okay. Broad strokes. I think you have a silencer without high back pressure, made of Inconel, less than 7 inches long. It can decently tame a short barrel battle rifle. And that's pretty good. As we test more, we're going to learn more. Right now, our initial impressions of the Dillon are that it's doing good work. We're glad to see Dillon step up and let you guys see this publicly. They're the first ones with the SR-25, and believe me, they are not the first ones to test with us on the SR-25. They're the first ones to let you see it. I just want to tell you that, and this is a really big deal, and it shows how much they care about their users, which from what I see, like when I speak to them, seems like they care a lot. they're not a huge silencer company. They do other stuff, but they're like, have they had some problems? Absolutely. Do they make them right? Seems like it, man. They seem like they really care, which I don't have to say that, but this is just my opinion. Seems like they do. Seems like they really do want you folks to have a good experience, which is good to see. So, important. One thing I forgot to mention that I think I mentioned last episode, I might have forgotten. The SR25 from Knights, it's a 3/4 inch diameter, 24 thread per inch barrel, and it doesn't have a shoulder. It's kind of like a SCAR in that way. It has even less of a shoulder than a SCAR. So any muzzle device that you use with an SR25, it has to muzzle index. That 3/4 24 mount for the SR25, it has to muzzle index. Here's a good, if you're brand new to silencers, here's a good comparison for you. Combat 9mm combat handguns, common imperial thread is 1/2 has a shoulder. Yeah. The master thread, 13.5 by 1 millimeter left hand muzzle indexes. It doesn't have a shoulder. This is like that, except this is a right hand imperial thread. Anyway. So I say all that to say, if you put something on that S25, it has to muzzle index. So it just so happens you can get direct thread adapters that muzzle index, which we did. The direct thread adapter that comes with the Dillon, it's that typical 5/8 24, which is okay because chances are your 30 caliber host that you're shooting is probably going to have that 5/8 diameter threading. But if not, remember the silencer's a hub silencer, so go nuts. I'm just saying we had to change mounts to be able to put it on the gun, but it's okay because our direct thread adapter was very close in dimensions to the included one. So big thanks to Dillon, as always, for trusting us to perform this work. And hey, big thanks to Knights Armament for helping us source the test host. Now, to be clear, Knights did not give us the rifle, or boy, I wish, but they did help us purchasing it, which is not as easy as you may think. Not only because it's very expensive, but because it's really hard to find them. So Knights actually personally helped us purchase them. And let us purchase some stuff from them, which was really cool because that usually doesn't happen. So big ups. Okay. So now for something completely different. Well, same, but different, but still same. We're going to do 308 again, but bolt action style now. You missed it, right? At a time of 47 minutes and 26 seconds. Okay. Where are my notes? Because I have the whole article I've written here that I gotta put in the thing. 1 second. Oh, yes. Topic 2. Sound Signature Review 6212, the Precision Armament TiTrex 300 on the 20-inch 308 bolt gun. We haven't published a bolt action report since May of last year. So we're going to revisit this, I would call it a ubiquitous and useful host platform. And we're going to examine this highly optimized 3D printed silencer. The performance is really interesting. And this discussion here is just going to be an intro. You're going to get this report 0700 Central in the morning. Today for you, tomorrow for me. And I know it's hard for some people to get excited for bolt action 308 data. Like, I get it. But it's also been a minute. And for the industry that is really super hot on ARs right now, I get it, dude. Like, this can seem a little boring to some people, but you need to sit down for a second because I need you to understand the gravity of the silencer. Okay, so the suppression rating of this silencer is not normal. The silencer is 6 inches long, guys. It's 8 ounces with a mount. It doesn't have first round pop. You can put it on stuff up to 300 Remington Ultra Mag. When you see this data and the hazard map in the morning, I think you're really gonna pay attention. I really do think that, because this silencer might be setting a new benchmark for performance in the size class. Due to the size of it, due to the design envelope, I think it's going to be hard to argue with this. And here's another thing to tell you. So these precision armament guys, They aren't silencer people first. And I think it's important to talk about this. They're not silencer people first. They're engineers first, and they do other stuff. And now the silencer part of their company is doing stuff. It's funny how that works. Now, I can honestly tell you, and I don't think they're going to mind this, hopefully not. I told them the same thing in person last week when I saw them at SHOT. We being Pew Science, we test with a lot of companies and for a lot of companies, big and small and everything in between. And the internal testing and R&D going on at Precision Armament is fairly high level. I will say that. How do I know that? Well, they've shared a lot with me, and I think their testing is excellent. I think their data reduction is excellent, meaning what are they doing with the test data? I think they're taking their test results and really digging into them. A really cool thing here is that our data that we independently gathered validated a lot of theirs, or vice versa, however you want to look at that, which is a really big testament to the job they do, I think, and to the repeatability of the Silencer Sound standard as well. And it's something that was really cool to see. I was extremely pleased with that. I think they were too. I think they were also very pleased because it's very, very, very similar. Now, when you see this silencer, you're going to see there's a lot going on. When you look at it, you're like, whoa, there's a lot. It's not like plain Jane. You're like, what's that? Now, for one thing, there's a lot going on. But for one thing, it has a serial ID ring they call the X band. Now, bear with me. At first, I thought it was like that swaged energetic armament thing, but it's not. It's a machined stainless steel band that's serialized, right? But it installs only one way onto the silencer, and that therefore it's permanent when you put it on the core. So how do you get it off? Well, you have to physically cut apart the silencer core, and then you destroy the core to remove the band. But when you do, you can use the band again, and you never have to hurt the band. The band doesn't get hurt. So theoretically, this is what they told me. Theoretically, this allows infinite core changes with the same serial number. So that means like if your core breaks, since this is 3D printed, they can just change the whole core pretty easily and also upgrade your core if needed. So, which I guess in the short time I've known them, that could definitely happen because they are certainly optimizers. When I say optimized, like I know like some people use the word optimization and optimized like flippantly. If you're an engineer and you hear the word optimized, it might mean a little something different to you. When I tell you that these folks optimize things, I cannot overstate. Like, if you thought the level of autism on this podcast was high, well, now one interesting thing, and it's in the report. One thing that's interesting is that this silencer is actually not a hybrid design. That may come as a shock to some of you. We're going to get into the technical talk next week, but they actually did this with complex geometric optimization of a conventional baffle idea instead of complex flow pads. This is a really big departure from what from what the stuff you've been like. Remember the Tisha we just evaluated? Ridiculously complicated inside. You know, the DRC308 we just talked about, pretty complicated. It has foam in it. Okay, this is not like that. Okay, this is actually highly optimized, but not in that, but not super complex. And now, okay. So, and there's some reason, and we're going to talk about that next episode. There's some reasons they chose to do it like this, but suffice to say, conventional baffle type does not necessarily mean it's not complex and high performance, because boy, does this thing perform. It's really not normal. It's not. For the size and weight, it is really nuts. I'm telling you, dude, like this is one of those silencers that might find its way onto a lot of people's hunting rigs or precision rigs. I don't know. Talk about coming out swinging. That's my opinion. That's what I'm seeing here. And you guys look, judge for yourself when you see the data. I want you to see the data and you tell me what you think. But for me, I was like, oh, that's pretty impressive. So, me personally, I really like to see engineers doing thoughtful and tediously aggressive design optimization, because it's kind of the spirit of this whole thing. Like, these guys are manufacturers and design engineers, and now they're making silencers. It's not the other way around. Okay? So take a look at the report, take a look at the data, and I think we got the bolt action hazard map correct for you. You're going to see that too. It looks pretty cool. You're going to see something really cool. I had to rewrite some of the code where now we stepped up a couple of versions. I found a bug in the damn bolt action module the other day. It's working now, but anyway, you'll see it's actually the bolt action module of PSoft HD for these hazard maps is actually very complex, because we have so much power due to the fact it's a bolt action. So we anyway, I know that's counterintuitive, but anyway, when you see the map, you'll understand why it's crazy. It's awesome. What else? Oh, did something a little different in the report, and made some charts with silencer length. Let me know if you like it. I think this is really going to open your eyes to comparisons. Again, should be live 0700 Central or so. Now let's talk about the other deer I murdered since we last spoke at a time of 55 minutes and 57 seconds. And big thanks to Precision Armament for trusting our lab. It's an honor to work with engineers like you. You're actually inspiring to me. It's very, very, very good. So topic 3, hunted again with 300 blackout, 6.75 inch Sig MCX LVAW, less than a week after my previous report to you, in which I took that whitetail doe, like less than a week to the day, like probably 6 days later, I took a spike buck in late season with the same ammunition. And so I had some quick lessons learned. This shouldn't take too long. It's 300 blackout. You know, they're like murderer's choice, 300 blackout. No, I was at, it's funny because I was just a SHOT Show. It was good to catch up with a lot of folks. And I was actually able to touch base with like a 300 blackout trifecta of people. I saw Robert Silvers, shout out Robert. I don't know, you're probably not listening to this, but let's be honest. But if you are, he showed me his anti-drone defense turret. That was cool. God, Robert, you're so smart, dude. I was gonna say you're a gentleman and a scholar, and by scholar I mean you're an evil genius. He's the one who invented 300 blackout, by the way, if you didn't know who he was. And then I was touching base with good old Kevin Brittingham. It's good. I hadn't seen him in a while, so that was cool. And then talked to Ethan too at Q, and Nick. Oh, I don't know if you guys know Nick. So Nick works at Q. Nick's actually one of my favorite engineers in the firearms industry. He's just a really nice person, and he's sharp, and I just love interacting with him. And Nick actually designed a lot of the fixed rifle that some of you shoot. He used to work at Browning, actually. Good guy. Anyway, so I was talking, and I mentioned these people because I use 300 blackout again, and they're the ones kind of like doing all this 300 blackout stuff. So shot another deer with it. It was good. It was good to talk different 300 blackout technologies with these people too. So I shot that deer last time I told you about, and then I shot another one at almost the same distance, around, what was it, 105 yards, 110 yards, something like that. And I took a spike because it was late season. Like I said, it was second to last day of the season. I needed more meat after shooting that doe. Just needed 2 deer. I was like, one deer's not enough. We need 2. So I used the VMAX again, the 110 grain VMAX. This time a low heart shot, which I almost messed up because I rushed the shot. I jerked a little bit, but I was successful. A big change that I made for this hunt was that I used the 5X EOTech magnifier instead of the 3X. I think that for my hunting range, I might stick with that. I think I told you about that the last time we spoke about this, that I found the 3X a little bit lacking. And I told you that I do have both. I just, so I set up the gun with a 5X this time. And so I think for my hunting range, yeah, I might stick with it. I think 3X is probably better for the shorter range stuff. For field use out at the ranch, I think I'm team 5X right now. So all in all, successful season, even though I could only hunt the last week of it. Two deer is going to help. My wife actually just made deer chili as soon as I got home from SHOT Show, and we're running low on existing deer. I like to have a meat backlog in the freezer, and my kids now, I got toddlers, and they're loving deer too now, so it's a whole thing. So and I got more mouths to feed, which means more deer murder. So got work cut out for me. Now, speaking of enhancing the murder machine, I hit the dang microphone there. I have on more than one occasion thought to myself that my Sig MCX trigger is a little too heavy. Now, is it a bad trigger? No. I don't think by any means it's a bad trigger. No. And very usable, obviously. Just killed 2 deer with it. But I do find myself wanting it to be lighter when I'm shooting targets. And in the case of my recent hunts, shooting deer. I was browsing the old Optics Planet because I was Googling for this trigger. They got the Geisley MCX SSA. It is a version of that trigger specifically for the MCX. And the reasons for that, the bolt velocity of the MCX, specifically when you're using supersonic ammunition, is very, very high. If you do not use the special Geisley trigger and you decide to use a different Geisley trigger, you may damage the disconnector with the hammer as it comes back because the bolt carrier group's moving so quickly. So anyway, these triggers can be very expensive, but sometimes there are sales, and Optics Planet had a sale. So I was Googling, it was like really, really cheap. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So it's actually sitting on my desk in front of me. I haven't installed it yet, haven't had time, but I'll let you folks know what I think once I install it and try it out with target shooting. Now going back to that hunt, and I'm going to tell you about the trigger. That it's going to come full circle. I'm going to explain why I'm telling you about the trigger in a second. So going back to the hunt, because it was late season and I couldn't take any bucks that weren't spikes, just because the regulations of where I'm hunting, the trophy buck part of the season's over. You can only take spikes now. Target selection was really, really important, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, it was a target-rich environment. It was all bucks that were coming out. It was a Sunday, I think, or Saturday, whatever it was. No, it was Saturday. The only day magnification, or the only day optics that I had with me were my 10x42 loophole BX4 binoculars that I carry in a harness, and that 5X EUTech magnifier, right? So I have a 10X binoculars and a 5X magnifier on the weapon. And my little thermal, it's not going to help you with antlers because it's a thermal, and like sometimes you can see antlers through thermal, especially when they're in velvet, but good luck. It's not good for this. So, and plus I would have to use digital zoom on the Voodoo. So the target-rich environment was really actually difficult to deal with because they would eat and then move and then eat and then move. And I couldn't, I could identify them properly with my binoculars, but then once I got my gun up, that 5X magnifier, it wasn't letting me be 100% sure in the difference in all the different deer in the group. And the reason is because there were actually some of the bucks, they looked like spikes through the 5X, but when I went to my 10X binoculars, I could see forked tines on them. It was tricky, dude. Really hard target ID. And I know this is a very niche hunting case because this type of thing happening is rare, but I think it's worth telling you about. Like at the very least, you need to understand that not having higher power magnification on your gun when hunting is a potential drawback. And I'm not used to it. I usually have a 3 to 15 scope typically on a deer gun. That's typically how I hunt deer. So I usually don't have this problem. But this is something I ran into. Now, if you're only looking at 1 or 2 animals, there's usually no issue because you're going to switch from your spotting optic to your binoculars or whatever to your gun just fine, and you're already going to know what the animal is, and you're already ready to engage, and you're just fine. Okay. But if you're one of those people who rely on your gun optic to spot and shoot, you're going to need to think about the mechanics of that depending on the type of game you're hunting, also the distances at which you're engaging. And now keep in mind, and here's the thing, like you understand what I'm saying, right? So like let's like picture this. I have my loophole binoculars up and I'm looking at these deer. I can see exactly what deer I want to shoot. But then by the time I put the binoculars down and put my gun up, the deer have all changed locations and I can't tell them apart again. That was what was happening. So I didn't have a spotter with me either, another person. So I couldn't like hold the binoculars up with one hand and have the gun up with the other. It just wasn't going to happen. So that's why I ran into some issues. Okay. Thank God I had the 5X. Because it would have been even harder with the 3X. Anyway, again, this is very rare to happen, but when I'm picking, there's like, whatever it was, 8 to 10 deer, and we just happen to be overpopulated with deer in that region. That's why it was like, anyway, there was only one thing I could shoot, and there's a bunch of them, and they all blend together when you can't see them. So, that's one of the reasons I pulled the shot. So it was lack of training with this system in target-rich environments. That's one of the reasons. So when I finally locked on this guy, he's moving. I was taking aim. He would move again. Aim. He would move again. And he finally got broadside and was about to move. So I shot him, but I rushed a little bit and I forgot my basic mechanics. So I pulled the shot slightly low. So that's my fault. Right? It's on me. But anyway, I know why I did it. And I know how it happened. So I shot a little bit low, just slightly low. So I still got the bottom of his heart. Still got him. Still a good day, still a good hunt, but it highlighted some quick lessons. It's amazing how many lessons you can learn in like such a short time, right? Short amount of time. Lesson 1, practice more. You think you've practiced enough? You probably haven't. Lesson 2, think about your optic chain and what you need. I will for sure be going 5X mag on this gun and not 3X when I'm in the field. Like, again, thank goodness I had 5 this time. I'm glad I tried the deer before. Okay, so you live, you learn. We're learning, we're adapting, we're getting better. Lesson 3, maybe there's a better trigger and that's going to help. We're going to see. I know that I know me personally when I shoot, when I have a lighter, crisper trigger. Well, I would say crisper. When I have a lighter trigger, I tend to shoot better. I don't know if it's because I need to train more on the squeeze and not the jerk. You know what I mean? Like maybe I need more training. Maybe that's why lighter trigger helps me. I'm not an expert on that. I just tell you what I've noticed. I think I can tell you, like, I have a Geisley trigger in my Scar and I shoot that gun really, really well. I have a Geisley trigger in the Pew Science test lower. Shoot really well, shoot a lot. And so I'm going to see how this Geisley trigger does in the MCX. People rave about it. So we'll see. It's interesting. It has a bridge and everything to protect the disconnector. I know that people say you can put a normal trigger in a spear like LT gun, but I don't. Be careful. You might break something, and you don't want to break something. So I'm gonna try that one. I'm gonna try the specific Geisley MCX model. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. Be here bright and early in the morning for the TiTrex report. Man, I think that, and it's such a newer company. Like no one's gonna know who it is. It's such so freaking performs so well. I did a podcast with Classic Firearms at SHOT Show, and they asked me like what I would put on a precision gun or something, and I was like, oh man, I have a good example of it, but I can't tell you yet because the report's not out. I was talking about this one. So anyway, wait until you see the data analysis for yourself. I just want you to. I'd be interested to see what you think. The lack of FRP was something else. We're going to be back next week to do a technical deep dive. Please be safe, stay warm. And I will talk with you folks again soon. Okay, bye.